Hey, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Kendrick Bailey, the Life Doctor.
I'm Terrence Johnson, the life excavator.
And I'm Jeffrey Hart, the life champion.
Mel Pittman, the life encourager.
And today we have another great topic for everyone. I want to pull it up on the screen. 7 things to filter out of your life for 2021. So I added the 2021. Seven
Mhm.
things to filter out of your life. So these are things that we wanted to remove out of our lives. And the reason we say filter sometimes because it may be hard to remove things in an expeditious manner. And so when you filter something out, it's slowly and methodically you remove it from your life. And if you can slowly and methodically move something from your life, you can keep it out of your life. And a lot of times you build up the proper walls where won't actually come back in or filter its way back in. And so I'll let Terrence, shape it the way he always shaped it so eloquently.
Look, that's how folks do you like in church. Oh, he say his words so well. But it kind of goes back to the conversation we had a few weeks ago about living an unfiltered life. It kind of like that Brita filter. So if you think about all the stuff that you had to contain over 2020, you realize that you got a lot of stuff you need to filter out in order for you to have the 2021 that you really want, because 2020 was a lot. 2020 seemed like a whole decade in one year. It just was a lot that happened this year. So the topics the areas that we're going to talk about are different ways, different areas to filter out that could hinder your next steps going into 2021. So the reason why we did it this way, most people, when it comes to the new year, they have all these New Year's resolutions, and they're like, "Oh, well, I'm gonna start this. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna start this business. I'm gonna start working out." It's always what you're gonna start, but you need to figure out what you need to leave before you can start something else. And so we'll say we want to start something, but then carry all of that old stuff into the new year. So these are things that once we filter them out, we want to leave them here in 2020 and not take them into 2021.
All right. So what I could do, I can, briefly go through the seven and show everyone what we'll be discussing. And then we can start with the first one. All right. The first thing, the 7 things that we want to filter out of 2021 is fear, distractions, the ego, self-doubt, lack of boundaries, toxic relationships, and unforgiveness. So if you just joining us, I'll reiterate today our discussion is about the 7 things to filter out of our lives in 2021.
All right. So which one of those you want to start with?
All right, let's start with fear.
All
So
right.
fear is the first thing that I put on, that we put on the actual, you know, screen for today. Because 2020, we actually went through a pandemic and lots of people experience, fear, anxiety, and sometimes fear can stop us from doing the things that we want to do. And so the reason that we put filter out fear in our lives in 2021, because find a thing that stops or impedes your progress and remove it so you can accomplish the things that you set out to do.
So when I think about fear, it's kind of like what what was I afraid of this year that I don't want to be afraid of next year. So I guess that's a question we could all kind of go around and answer, because I think it'll be good to give people a framework of what did that look like, or how what specific thing could I remove that I'm afraid of. So I guess for me, one thing that I was afraid of this year was with the changes that I wanted to make, were those changes gonna give me the outcome that I wanted? So the very thing that I felt like, oh, it's for me to do, or this the thing I need to do, being afraid that if I did it, it wouldn't work out the way I wanted it to.
Okay.
Yeah, kind of.
Go ahead, Jeffrey.
No, I was gonna say, kind of piggybacking on what he said. You know, having that fear of the unknown. So that's one thing. You know, at the beginning of every year, you know, a lot of people do have the fear of unknown of what's gonna happen. You know, in the next year to come. But I guess that's one of the things that I need to figure out too. Is just, you know, just trusting the process and just having faith and moving forward. So I guess that's one way to filter out, you know, the fear going into next year. Just, you know, to do more, you know, trusting and having faith than fear.
Mhm.
All right. So the question was, what's one thing that we were fearful of?
Mhm.
Um, I mean, for me, I would just say uncertainty. Learning to not to be afraid of, uncertainty, or not having all the answers being revealed, or having all the answers in front of me. I mean, and so I think that's one thing that I used to fear. But because if I didn't have the answer, then in the past, maybe I would feel inadequate. But not having all the answers, things being uncertain, learning to accept it and embrace it, and know that that's normal. That's a part of life.
Yeah. All right.
'Cause one thing about 2020 has showed us, man, that you just never know. You just never know.
Look, whatever can happen did happen.
Right.
Continue. That's what happened. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Let me see. You want to move to the next one? I guess Mel will hop back on.
All right. So the second thing we wanted to filter out was distractions.
Mm-hmm.
And so I guess going along the route that you went last time, what distractions, do we need to remove out of our lives? Or what distractions did we discover and had to remove out of our life?
I think one that's big is one that I try and keep managed, but sometimes it's harder to do it. Sometimes than at other times is like the consumption of information, like having too much stuff that you watching, you trying to take in day after day after day. Like, most of us when we wake up, the first thing we do is get our phone and then we start scrolling and we start reading and we start watching stuff. And it's like our mind doesn't get a chance to really process all the stuff that we look at or watch or whatever, and it overwhelm our mind and our thoughts. And so we can't really make the decision we want to because we just feel so tired because we feel we just bombarded with all this stuff. And I know for me, when I can get away from social media or like limit the amount of time that I am on like my computer, my phone, I feel a whole lot better because I don't feel so, I don't know if it's like cluttered or something like that. I kind of feel more at ease because I don't have so much that I'm trying to take in. When I can have more quiet, that helps kind of reset me. And so I know information and trying to take in too much can be a big distraction for me.
And for me, a distraction is being involved in things, um, maybe because I'm good at doing them, but they don't necessarily, feed me or put anything into me. And so, one of the things I learned is, over the course of these years, only be involved with things that really feed you, provide you nourishment, or allow me to grow. And so a distraction for me is letting go of the things that don't allow me to grow, and not entertaining them or giving them too much time and attention. Because a lot of time we give time and attention to things that don't allow us to grow personally. And so, and that's sometimes we waste a lot of time and energy on things that don't hold value.
Mhm. And it's good you mentioned that because one thing you have to look at when it comes to distractions, you have to filter out what's good for you and what's irrelevant to you. And so one of the things you have to kind of filter out is you got to look and see where you're going, and going back to what T was saying, what information that you're taking in. Okay, you have to discern, is this information that I'm taking in, is it going to help me get to where I need to go? Then if not, then I don't need to you know deal with it, or consume it. So I think that's one of the big distractions for a lot of people, what you're taking in. So whether it's social media, TV, news, what you're listening to, whatever, you have to look at it and see, okay, if the time that I'm using to consume this, is this going to help me get to where I want to go? Then if not, then I need to put it aside and not consume it, I guess.
Thanks, Jeff. I needed it.
Oh, anytime.
Your turn, then, Neil.
I didn't hear the question that T asked earlier because my video kept going in and out.
What distractions did you learn or discover that you needed to remove out of your life in 2020? Or what distractions will you focus on removing in 2021? Nah.
Kendrick, you're gonna stop mistreating me. It's probably a lot of, before I didn't watch a lot of television and stuff. But 2020 I distract myself with a lot of TV. When I probably could be doing something more productive. So I guess I don't know if I want to remove them though. I like just sitting there and just be
throw them out there, Neil. Throw them out there.
I just want to watch. I want to be mindless and watch mindless TV. I don't want to focus after work.
Well, why do you want to focus on your distractions then?
Because it's easier to. Then I don't have to focus on real life. And sometimes real life things.
Well, you ain't wrong in that.
Yeah, but I think it's kind of like that healthy balance of kind of time to like decompress versus distract yourself. So, and I think it's a fine line, because you just trying to take time out for yourself can look like you trying to take time to decompress and just kind of get away from stuff, but it might be making it worse, because then the stuff you watching ain't really helping you either.
This is true. It is. I acknowledge that.
Like, it's a balancing act. It's like, yeah, you getting away from stuff, but then are you really? Because then you watching stuff or you doing stuff that is still not really helping you relax either.
I'm either on one extreme where I'm distracted by frivolous television and social media, or I'm distracted by work. So I'm always on either end of the extreme. I'm never balanced. Never I can just leave work at work, or I need control, self-control.
So 2021 is the year of the shift to common ground for you, huh?
Yes, it's to learn balance. That's to practice balance. I know the balance, to practice the actual balance.
Okay. All right. The next one that we're filtering out of our lives is the ego. So self. And so me and Terrence was talking about two different parts of the ego. So we were talking about the ego where it could be, arrogance or being overly inflated about how good you are and what you bring, to the situation. Um, but it also can be the opposite um in regards to the ego when we, sometimes are easily offended, you know, by the things around us. And so with the ego, keeping the ego in check is not being too arrogant or overly focused on self, but also not being easily offended by the situation and encounters that you come into contact with.
And when you were saying that, I was thinking, you know, a lot of people they feel like they have to have an inflated sense of ego because that's how they come across to people. That's their image or persona. But what I wrote down is like really the larger your ego is really like the smaller you really are. Because if you gotta have all of this and let it be known what you do and how you do it, and you want people to just feed that, then internally you real small, and that's why you have to build that ego up because inside you like a little miniature little
Yeah.
like like the little army men and stuff, like you little figurine inside, but you want to be big on the outside. But if you be, you building up internally what you need to do, you got a good sense of yourself. Externally is not determined on how many people validate or appreciate you because you do it enough inside for anybody else. So like if somebody tell you something, you like, oh, okay, that's cool, but it doesn't affect you the same way. You're like, it's fine, I appreciate it, but it's not the thing that you doing things to get that for. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so let me ask this. So with ego, and I think we may have touched on it, a few months ago when we talked about ego, but
Mhm.
kind of riding that fine line between ego and confidence.
Mhm.
So I guess how can we filter out, ego, but replace it with, confidence or that self assuredness of,
Yeah,
you know,
I think that self assured is more self assured in who you are, and I think when you know who you are, you can be confident in it. A lot of times, the ego is all built on what you do,
Yeah.
and as long as you do, then that makes you feel better as far as your ego. So that's why you want the things that come with what comes with titles, or, status or prestige, because that feeds your ego. Because then you got placeholders to say like, "Hey, I reached this level. See what I got? I reached this level. See what I got." That self assuredness is like, even if I didn't have all of that, that doesn't make my worth any less. So I can have that or I don't have to have that, but that doesn't affect how I see myself. And I think that's why when people lose certain things, they get devastated. Not because of the thing, it's because of what they represented in their life.
Hmm. And then with ego and confidence, I think our first principle really come into play awareness. So confidence is about awareness in who you are and being self-assured. The ego, is about self, and you're less aware about how your present impacts people in a positive or negative way. The ego is you 100% focused on you, and you not anywhere near focused on developing others or being better. Confidence is like I said, awareness, and confidence is awareness, and you constantly want to be better because of the impact of the people that maybe you come in contact with. And so, ego is out of selfishness, confidence has a lot to do with awareness and want to be better or want to grow personally or professionally.
All right. We ready for the next one?
All right. Self-doubt is the fourth thing that we talked about filtering out in 2021. What you got, Mia? So self-doubt is the
I was asking, what about on the other end of the spectrum? We were talking about ego. What about a person
You said, well, the last part you
being
said?
delayed?
Yeah, a little bit.
Never mind.
you good now?
You said something. You were saying something about the other spectrum, of the other side of the spectrum with ego.
Never mind.
You good, man?
Never mind. Move on. My connection is terrible. Move on.
Okay. All right.
So self-doubt.
All right. So I guess with self-doubt, okay, I can just talk from my personal experience. I think for me, my self-doubt is what people either don't know that I do, or it's things that other people haven't validated or consistently validated. So like we all have things that people know that we do that is validated. But then it's certain things that we would want to do or moving toward those things. But those are things that's outside of the box of what people are accustomed to us doing. And I think that's where my self-doubt is in. It's not in the things that people know that I do well. It's the things that I feel like I do well that other people don't know I do well. And that's the doubt.
So I got a question. So why don't other people know you do it well though?
Because a lot of times what people accustomed to me doing is kind of what I'm asked to do more of. So it's almost like I don't have the time to really focus fully on that. And then it's like, well, is it something I should focus on? Because it's like the thing that people just used to me doing. It's just like, oh, he can do that. That's why. And me and you had this conversation a lot. I don't really like to tell people that I'm a therapist or whatever because I do a lot more than that. But when people hear that, or like, oh, you got a background in counseling, that's where they naturally go. And so for me, even though I can do that, that's still on a portion of the things that I can do. But the things that I really want to do are the things that I didn't go to school for or I didn't do as a job. And so it's not my resume thing that I'm real passionate about. But when people look at my resume, they're like, oh, you can do this, this, this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And then when I think of self-doubt, it's just, moving kind of, somewhere along the lines of some of the things that you talked about, but it's moving forward with the things that I'm constantly thinking about or that I'm constantly wanting to do or I'm passionate about, but, not fully, moving forward with them because of, maybe worrying how, they will be received. And so, learning that it's okay to give it to, people the way you see it. The people that are gonna receive it well are the people that it was meant to be for, and the people that don't receive it well, then it wasn't for them. And so changing, my stance on how I think about and put out information or put out things because somebody has to get it or it's meant for somebody. So by holding on to the things that I be thinking about, it only hurts me and it also hurts the person or the people that it was meant to see it.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's good what you mentioned, at the end of, holding on to stuff and how it been, how it affects everyone that's around you. And I think having, self-doubt in, the things that you either want to do or things that you could be doing, but you don't feel that you're good enough to do it, or things like that, and not actually going forward, and it really affects everyone, that's around you. Because if you remove that self-doubt and go ahead and do it, and I'm preaching to myself right now, if you go ahead and do it, you probably be amazed at what you can do and
Mhm.
how you can affect, everyone around you for the good.
Mhm.
So definitely, I know that's one area that I do need to work on in 2021. Um, is removing that self doubt and just really just going for the things that I really want,
Mhm.
and just have you just have to realize that, and be comfortable. Hey, if it don't work out like you wanted to, I mean, that's okay. And, at least you gave it that shot. At least you tried it.
Mhm.
So yeah, and I think a lot of people may be there, having that self doubt, or actually just going for the things that they really want. And that self-doubt may come from within, or somebody may have said something to them in the past that you know kind of strengthened that self-doubt. But you just have to get past it, and really just go for it. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree with it, because I think the other layer to it is most of us have never been pushed or encouraged to go outside of our norm. So we don't step outside or do things, or we don't challenge the things that we have self doubt about, because everybody around us has been comfortable with us just being in the position that we've been in. So everybody, like nobody will be like, "Oh, Jeffrey, this what you want to do? Okay, cool. If you do it, that's fine. If you don't, that's fine." But it's like when you get in certain environments where it is like a push to continually go toward the things that you say you want to do, then it's different, because it's like, oh man, I'm gonna have to do the stuff I'm talking about. You know what I'm saying? And we not used to that, because more than like most of our life, if it's something that we feel like, oh, it's gonna be a lot. Most people be like, man, you know what? Yeah, that is a lot. Man, you ain't gotta, you good. You ain't gotta push toward that. But it's different when people like, no, I said, but yeah, you still gonna go forward with that. Yeah, that's what you want. We're gonna help you do that. So it's different when you kind of got an environment where that's encouraged for you to go towards those things that you might be uneasy about. And
Yeah.
I think that's what gets a lot of people stuck. They don't really have that community and that support for them to take those steps, even if they are like nervous and uncertain when they do it.
So what you're saying is, like, if you do have that self-doubt, it's best to get in environments that will give you that nudge, and occasionally to give you that hard push to go ahead and
Yeah,
do what it is that you really want to do.
yeah, because if you don't, is you can always have an excuse. And for people that really are not invested in your growth, they'll take your excuse at face value. The people that really want to see you go forward into the thing you really want to do, they gonna poke the holes in your excuse and show you how you can still go forward. Like, man, I ain't got no money. Okay, I hear you, but okay, this free right here. You can get in this free training right here, or I know this person right here you can call. So they'll start poking holes in the thing that you say is stopping you from getting the way you want to get to. So that's why. So some of us, we know the people around us that would do that, and we don't want to call them, because, like, man, if I call, and this ain't even gonna hold up. I already know this ain't gonna hold up when I want to say, because I know they're gonna be like, nah, I already see a way around it. Yeah.
All right. The fifth one to filter out of our lives is lack of boundaries. And I think lack of boundaries will be big for a lot of people. And that could be family, that could be friends, that could be colleagues at work. That's just people infringing into your personal, space or territories, and you aware that they're infringing on you, but you're not letting them know how what they're doing is costing you, time, energy, and if you're not growing, you're actually becoming deficient in areas because of what you don't say or what you don't do in regards to other people. So I think lack of boundaries, everybody needs to set appropriate boundaries in their life. And by not having them, sometimes we let the people that we constantly come in contact with walk all over us, and we expect them to change. But no one is going to change if you don't put forth the parameters for them to change.
Say that last part again.
I said no one is going to change unless you put forth parameters for them to change.
All right, so I just got a visual right when you said that. So you know how you'll be driving and you might go through a construction area or area that's might be they paving the road or they're kind of tearing up a part. So what they do, they put cones around that area so you don't have access to certain things. So you have to go around. But if they didn't have that, you wouldn't respect that boundary because you like, man, I see that, but I'm gonna go on around here. I can cut across here or whatever like that. And so it's the same thing for boundaries. It's especially if you're in a transitional phase or whatever, you want to have that blocked out so certain people don't have access to you or certain things don't have access to you. So then you can have that time to rebuild or build or renew yourself or kind of get refreshed. And I think that's what boundaries do. It's not necessarily to keep people out. Sometimes it's to give you the space to make the transition you're trying to make. And I think that's another way to kind of look at it is it's not saying that the person is bad or people are bad. It's like, I need space to finish this road. I need space to make this bridge, to finish this bridge. I need space to do this, and everybody can't have access to it while it's under construction.
So it's okay to say no.
Yeah, because all right, so I'm gonna go back to my example. So just like that. So if I'm under construction, if I say yes, then the road that I'm paving is not ready. So then if I say like, just like, okay, in instance for like relationships, if I know I'm not ready but I don't set that boundary, then what the person is going to experience is not ready. But if I set that boundary or explain it like, hey, look, when I get, some stuff together, I'm be like, it's going to be a 4-lane highway in a minute. Just let me get this done, then it's going to be smooth. But if we let things in too easy, that's what our yes can do. It can like tear up relationships or tear up things because the road that we're trying to lay down is not finished.
Yeah, and then the lack of boundaries can get you into situations that you never intended to finish, or you don't have the energy to finish. So by always saying yes, you actually say yes to things that you hadn't prepared, or you have no idea on what you've gotten yourself into because you don't know how much time it's gonna cost, you don't know how much energy it's gonna take, and you don't know the necessary steps that it's gonna take to completion. And so like I say, a lot of times we say we're gonna take care of people and things, and then when we get a glimpse of what it means to take care of something or how much time it takes, we realize that hey, we've done ourselves a disservice. And so
Mhm.
lack of boundaries, or lack of having boundaries, you're doing yourself a disservice and you agreeing to do something that's gonna only cause you to be deficient of what you need to survive or continue on.
Mhm. So, just like with the example you gave, it really boils down to, a lack of boundaries is a lack of awareness of your own abilities too. Because if you don't have a healthy sense of what you can and can't do, then that makes you overcommit. Because if you feel like you can do any and everything, then you won't have boundaries. Because you'll think that anything that comes my way, I can handle.
Mhm.
But when you got a healthy sense, you're like, man, look, I already know I don't have energy to do that. I don't need to be around this group of people. That environment is not for me. And so it's easier to say no when you're aware of yourself. But when you're not, then that's when you get into the tendency of saying yes all the time.
All right. Number 6 on our list for filtering out in 2021 is toxic relationships. And a lot of time we give so much time and energy to toxic relationships. One thing you don't owe people is your time. Your time is something that you should keep a good accountability of, and your time, is something that you should give to meaningful situations or give it to people that mean something to you. And so, toxic relationships take from you. Healthy relationships pour into you. I repeat that. Toxic relationships take from you. Healthy relationships pour into you. And so, no matter what it is that it takes, like I said, it could be energy, it could be financial stability, it could be time, it could be a lot of different things that toxic relationships take out of you. They can take your attention. So, you're so focused on, what you're dealing with that you don't realize that you're losing, you know, all those things. And so, focus on the healthy relationships in 2021 and remove the toxic relationships out of your life. Because, like I said, toxic relationships deplete you, healthy relationships replenish you.
So the other angle of it too is some of us are in toxic relationships or have been in toxic relationships most of our life, but the number one toxic relationship we in is the one with ourselves.
Mhm. Yeah.
We so toxic to our own self that we can't even accept good relationships because we just carrying around so much garbage. Like we talked about, take out the trash that time before. We got so much trash that need to be taken out. We can't get in healthy relationships until we unload all of that trash that we have. And I think that's when you start from the inside out, then you kind of attract what it is that you are kind of giving off to. So if
Mhm.
you haven't unpacked that, then you're gonna attract people that got a lot of stuff too. So y'all just got a whole bunch of trash together. Y'all in the land field just walking around. but but if you start to unpack that, then you can have those things that you really want because it's not coming from a weighed down place, like a place of baggage. It's a place of um like renewal or even space to even create or build something or create something with a good foundation. That's what I meant to say.
Yeah. What you got, Jeffrey?
Oh, I don't know, y'all pretty much summed it up real good. Like T said, that eliminate those toxic relationships, but it started with the relationship that you have with yourself. I mean, because
Yeah.
like piggybacking on what T said, man, it's you like attracts like. So if you have a healthy relationship with yourself, then you will have healthy relationships with everyone around you.
And-
So
and I'm gonna quote our progress. The relationship with yourself sets the tone for all other relationships. That's a quote that we put up a long time ago. And I think that's something that people should pay attention to. The relationship with yourself or your relationship with you sets the tone for all other relationships. So what you allow other people to do, that's what they're gonna do. So understand that and don't habitually continue to offend yourself and then allow other people to habitually offend you as well.
them habitual mind steppers, man.
Yeah, bitch. Oh man.
All right. And the last thing to filter out for 2020, well, 2021, and like I said, we're getting close to the end of 2020. And so these are the things that we're focusing on filtering out. And if you just joined us, 7 things to filter out of your life. And we're focusing on 2021 because, like I said, we're putting a new spin on it. A lot of times we focus on setting New Year's resolutions, and sometimes we need to focus on setting the things that we want to filter out of our life. And so the last one is unforgiveness. There's a lot of us walking around wanting people to forgive us for the things that we've done, but we haven't forgiven ourselves for the things that we've done. And I think we need to be in a constant state of forgiveness, because if you're in a constant state of forgiveness, you know, you're doing right by yourself and others, because you don't put yourself above anybody else, and you know that you have done things to hurt other people, but you own that responsibility and you're accountable for it, and then you choose to forgive other people for the things that they've done to you, and not walking through life holding grudges. And so I do think in 2021, we need to take every opportunity to let go of grudges, because grudges only slow us down. They don't really hurt the people that we have the grudge towards.
Mhm. And a lot of times with unforgiveness, just like you were saying with the grudge, who does it benefit with you just holding that grudge? You know, kind of like uh, you know, like the Hatfields and McCoys, like they were family. They kind of like war back and forth with each other over generations, and they're like, but what did that, what did they gain from that? Like, what do you gain from holding that grudge? Or some people they'll have a falling out or they have a disagreement, and they'll have an issue with that person until they die. And then when they pass, they're like, man, that was crazy. That was stupid. Like, what were we even arguing about? But then you missed the opportunity to make it right. Um, and that's what you do. Even with I think I was watching that was the Bill Gates kind of documentary, but like him and one of his co-founders with Microsoft, they had like a falling out over that,
Yeah.
and it lasted years, and it lasted up until he passed. And then after he passed, then that's when Bill Gates was like, man, I missed the opportunity to kind of make that right.
Mhm.
And you don't want to miss an opportunity to make things right with people. Not saying that you'll have that same kind of relationship, but you don't want somebody to leave and you not say what you should have said and get it out, get everything on the table, because things at the time it might have seemed like a big issue, but as years go on, you're like, man, we were tripping. That
Yeah.
was just stupid. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Like, I was tripping, you were tripping, we were tripping, my bad. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
And,
That's how it is.
and as you use that example with Bill Gates, a lot of time people that don't forgive, it's as simple as a lack of communication, or
Mhm.
it's as simple as forgiving people that didn't agree with us. A lot of people hold grudges to people that didn't agree with them, and they got it. When you say it out loud, it just sounds stupid. I'm mad at somebody because they didn't agree with me. I'm gonna hold this grudge on this person because they didn't agree with the decision that I wanted to make, or basically because they didn't do what I wanted them to do. And I felt like it was a betrayal because you didn't do what I wanted you to do. Man, that's some audacity right there, to be upset and angry with people because they didn't make the decision that you wanted them to make, or they didn't do what you wanted them to do. That's pretty selfish. And so sometimes we need to look in the mirror and remove the selfishness that's within us, because if you're holding grudges, sometimes it's because of what you did and not because of what somebody did to you.
Say that again.
You know,
Say that
if
again.
you holding grudges, sometimes it's because of what you did and not because of what somebody did to you.
Mhm.
You know, we can't all be victims. Don't be the victim in 2021, because everything's not about you. If every time something happens, you're the common denominator in the situation and you blame everybody else, it's probably time for you to look in the mirror at yourself, because you're the common factor in each of those situations. It's some you in all those situations.
Nope.
The people that you mad with, not in all those situations. They might be in one of them, but you in all 22 of them.
Mhm.
When 2021 get you right, focus on forgiving you and focus on not being mad at people because they didn't agree with you. Because maybe they did you a favor by not agreeing with you, so they can show you who you are, so you can change. Sometimes people don't agree with you because they want you to see that, hey, yeah, you pretty foul right there. You're not right. You need to take inventory of yourself.
Hey, I was just sitting there thinking, man, with especially with like forgiveness and unforgiveness. What's the what's the character in Frozen? What's her name?
Was it Elsa? Ain't that it?
Elsa,
Whatever.
Elsa and Anna,
Yeah. And what was the song she sung?
Let it
let
go.
it go.
Let it go. Let it go.
It's bad that we know this, but Caitlin had the Elsa doll that always sung this "Let It Go," and I literally listened to that song for about 2 years straight.
Yeah.
And as simple as it is, it's a profound philosophy. Just let it
Mhm.
just
Mhm.
let it go. I mean,
Yeah.
it's no good in holding on to all this stuff, man. Holding on past grudges and all that, it just makes you constipated, and it just sit there on you. And so,
Say that again. Say what you said again. Say it again. Just like that. Say it
hey,
again.
man,
Just like that.
like, for real, just holding on to all this stuff, man. You know, holding on to that, it just constipates you.
Yeah.
So
And you know, in
basically,
the words of my mama, you know, man, hey, sometimes you just gotta let that stuff go.
Yeah.
So,
so
Look,
basically,
that ain't
a
how
lot
she
of
would
people
say
need
it.
an
Look, that ain't
emotional
how she would
bowel
say
movement.
it.
yeah, that ain't how she said it, but that's the
Yeah, I
gist.
know.
You know, hey, you just gotta let this stuff go. Just let it go.
Yeah.
Because if not, that stuff will kill you.
Yeah.
It'll kill you.
That's it.
So, man, look, whatever you're holding on to at this point in 2020, if you want your 2021 to be good, man, let it go.
Mhm.
Go. Start fresh, man.
That's it. Look, you said something then. Now you said it. Now. You said it. You said it. But it's true. But I think what stop people from doing that very thing, they don't want to let go because they don't know what else to grab hold to. So because they've been holding it so long, it just it just becomes second nature. So they're like, if I let this go, then who am I after I let this go?
You're a better person.
I
And
know.
that's what you had to realize. It just, hey, what is better out there if you just let it go.
Yeah. Nah, it's
Yeah.
simple to me. It's simple to me.
Yeah.
It's simple to
And
me.
and like I said, in 2021, you're definitely gonna start seeing a lot of different things from our progress. So I want y'all to get ready to some changes. Cause we're gonna be doing a few things differently, and so we'll start putting that information out on over the next few weeks and what things we'll be doing differently to move people forward and to help people continue to be aware of who they are, but how to pivot and move towards better. And I think part of what we had to do from our progress in 2020, especially during the pandemic, is bring people aware to what concerns they may have. Use our platform, to educate people about different, things to start this conversation, whether it was about things that we experienced in life, whether it was about emotional health concerns, or it was just having real talk, bring you the topics that we felt that people wanted to hear. So, like I said, just continue to look for new things coming from us, and see what we have in store for 2021.
All right. Yeah. That's
All right,
that's
well,
it.
we'll see y'all
it,
next
wra-
week.
it wraps it up.
Hey, y'all have a good one.